Hey, Anthony, episode 604 today.
604 or 406?
604. Yes.
046. I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey, everybody. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. I, of course, am Glenn Hausman. That is the one and only Anthony Melchiori. March 22nd, 2022, day one of the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference. We're on location. How are you, my friend?
I wish I wasn't in my living room. I wish I was with you.
I wish you were here, too. You know, you're missing out on really important things here in Atlanta, like Gus's Fried Chicken and, you know, all of that kind of really.
Go to the Waffle House. Every time I go there, I go to the Waffle House.
Dude, there's a Waffle House downtown. And I didn't get over there yesterday. I may have to go tomorrow morning because I'm a huge champion of everything Waffle House.
Well, you know where the big Ferris wheel is, right?
Yes, it's right next door to it.
It's right next door to it. Yeah. So we were doing a show, and we did the show opening from there. And as we're starting to go,
right,
as they said, actually, I go, "There's a Waffle House."
Well, I love that Waffle House. One other thing, Anthony. Speaking of great ideas, I love ideas. They're doing fantastic stuff with innovation and revenue management. And did you know, Anthony, that ideas.com, they've been at it for 30 years. They were doing revenue management before people even knew what that was.
When we knew reservation manager, and then we eventually knew yield management. We're like, what's yield management? I don't know. And do you think the reservationist should like set rates and work with the general manager? No. The revenue manager has to work with the director of sales. No. No. Let's make her a revenue manager. And you know what? Let's pay her almost as much as let's pay as much as we pay director of sales. Oh my God! Everybody's hair's on fire. That's how old I am. And Janis is probably laughing.
All right. So instead of setting yourself on fire, use ideas.com. They've been at it for a really long time. They'll help you maximize opportunity. So we're going to also be talking about maximizing opportunity today, Anthony. We've got our good friends over at Choice Hotels joining us once again, Janis and Mark Shalala, to talk about their upper scale kind of portfolio over there. How are you doing on this awesome first day at the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference?
Fantastic.
Doing great, Glenn. Thanks for having us.
Great. You know, one-word answers are not going to cut it if we're going to fill the time here.
Well, you know what? I'm going to help fill the time because the last time Janis was on the show, we were in Vegas.
Yep.
We walked into the room and we hadn't seen each other at that point, maybe 15 years.
Right.
And she said, "Do you remember me?" So we told the story once, but I think it's worth telling again. Yeah. So Janis, do you remember the story? Do you want to tell it?
I do remember the story very well. It was the first boutique and lodging show, and it was about 15 years ago, and it was in Miami, Florida. And I had the pleasure of sitting next to you at lunch, and I had never met you before. And we were sitting there, and you came up with this brilliant idea, and you were telling me about this concept you had for a television show and how you were getting ready to pitch it. And I was like, God, I just don't know, Anthony. I just don't know if that's gonna work or not, because I can't imagine anybody letting you come into their hotel and show their dirt on national TV. And you were like, man, it's going to fly. It's really going to happen. It's going to be great. And we continued that conversation after lunch all the way through the hotel out to the front where we were waiting on, our cars to leave the event. And kind of blew my mind. And then, of course, I'm watching television not too long after that. And there you are. Yeah. And I think you've had, how many seasons did you have?
9.
That's with 9 seasons.
106 episodes?
108 and three other spinoffs. So,
yeah, exactly. So, don't trust me when it comes to television, but trust me when it comes to hotels.
You know something? Glenn knows I cry easy, but I won't cry. But you said something to me the second time we met, and you said that story to me, and you remember me? I said, yes. Now, at first, I was like, no, I was never at that conference. I don't remember. And then all of a sudden, I was like, yes, I remember you, because I didn't tell too many people. And there's something about your warmth, and I opened up. But you said something that was stunning to me, and I carry to this day the last time we were in Vegas. Do you remember what you said to me?
Tell me what it was.
You turned to me as we were walking out, and you had your press people, and you put your hand on my shoulder. You looked me in the eye and go, I'm really proud of you.
Oh,
I
And
am.
even as a 56-year-old man, that touched me. So thank you.
I think
Well,
you're
thank
only.
you.
I think you were a plucky 54 or 53.
No, but it's true, Anthony, because you weren't getting a lot of support, like I said, from the industry about being able to really pitch that concept and really turn it into something that, millions and millions of people have watched for years and years. And you were courageous, you were gutsy, willing to take a risk, innovative in the way that you were approaching telling the story about how great our industry is. And I'm super proud of you. And, I'm proud of where you are today too, and happy to be a colleague and an associate. And so kudos and congrats.
Well, and I talk about to people all the time about it's the moments in life. The moment I told you the story is because there was a warmth about you that just made me feel like comfortable. And and Glenn knows me really well.
I do.
I don't talk about anything. He even asked me what's going on. I don't tell him until it's done. I don't talk. So
No.
that really says a lot about who you are as a human. And then for you to tell a 56-year-old man that you're proud of him and it resonates with me is why I love this business, because those are the moments we change lives. Those are the moments we tell a little girl in her beautiful dress that's at the plaza in the lobby, yeah, we'll make you an Eloise tour. Those are the moments where you meet a gentleman like Leo Rossi in the lobby of the Lucerne Hotel and he changes your life forever. It's the day you go in the Air Force and the colonel says, you know what, recruit, you're going to be okay. Those are those. It's usually those 4 words or that one sentence. It's not those big, when people pontificate in those big speeches. It's always those few little words in that moment that you make somebody feel special. So I'm blessed and honored to know you, and thank you so much for that. So welcome to the show again.
So, Mark, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Mark went against me, and Mark said he was going to be with me.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about what you folks are up to. Of course, we're going to be talking about brands like Cambria and the Ascend collection and some overall stuff as well. Don't worry, we worked it out. No surprises over here, but I am interested as to how Cambria is doing right now. Now, Janis, the last time that we were on location at a Cambria was January 2020. When we were so naive and innocent back then. And you had opened up hotel number 50 in the Anaheim resort area. What's been happening since then? And I know you guys have been on with me in a short form interview last year at the lodging conference, but feel free to fill it all in from your side, and then we'll get Mark's point of view.
Well, 2021 was a great year for us, and the brand really showed how.
I feel like I got to stop you right there. 2021 was a great year for us. That's amazing to hear right off the bat, I'll tell you.
It was a great year for us.
Yeah, it's amazing.
When we look at the key metrics, whether it was social and digital review sites, what guests were saying about the brand, or whether it was looking at financial performance or openings or ground breaks or whatever metric you really wanted to look at, Cambria and our Ascend brand had a great year across all of those metrics. For Cambria specifically, Cambria outperformed our local comp sets, our defined local comp sets, and overall the category in 2021. Yeah. So it was really great. And then, like I said, in terms of openings, we actually opened 3 hotels back to back in the month of December in 2021. We had Louisville that opened, we had Nashville Airport that opened, and we had beautiful Calabasas, California. It's right there at Malibu Canyon that opened, and we're continuing that into 2022. Right. So it's been best of times, worst of times. You hear about that book, The Tale of Two Cities, and that first line. And it was that in some ways because it was so difficult for all of our operators. Heart bleeds for our people in our hotels, that have the labor shortages and supply chain interruption and keeping the lights on. But man, what a great job they did, to come out on top like that. So it's a lot of great talent that we have at Cambria that's really making the difference.
Yeah, and I recommend everybody checking out yesterday's show. And then last week we did a show with Peter Ritchie at FAU and Jeremy over at Gecko. We talk all about the labor crisis. I feel like we can't stop talking about that. That show is on March 17th. Thank you, Dr. Producer Suzanne. Mark, investment community, how's their appetite for deals been doing over the last couple of years, and how are you feeling about it today?
Yeah, obviously things slowed down a good bit during the pandemic, right? It was a shock to everyone's system.
Kind of like everything just came to a screeching halt for a little while there as everybody tried to figure out what the hell's going on.
Absolutely.
Of deal, right?
I mean, everyone was kind of going into triage mode, figuring out how they're going to service debt in their hotel. They weren't necessarily looking at, hey, what's the next deal I'm about to invest in? Because there were so many unknowns at that time. But very quickly, it's kind of I think a testament to the strength of Choice's balance sheet. within 3 or 4 months, after really kind of
Right.
becoming this triage unit of, helping our franchisees understand how they go out and get that federal support that was available and opening up lines of communication there, working them through operating models to help them kind of skinny down their operating model so they could, just get through this in general. Things started to stabilize pretty quickly. And then people did start looking at new investments. There's always that contrarian kind of investor that says, hey, if I can get started now, no one else is. And if I can open up, before anybody else when we come out of this, because we all know this is a cyclical business. So you had a lot of people looking at it from that standpoint. Choice Hotels, and particularly with Cambria, is a very strategic long-term priority for Choice. And we've been investing in the Cambria brand. So we were right there along those people who were willing to step forward and start developing, investing our own dollars in those projects. And we'll talk a little bit more about the pipeline, but that's really helped the pipeline continue to unfold.
Yep. Interesting. Anthony?
Listen, anyone that's doing well during the pandemic, that means there's systems in place, there's relationships in place, and that's when you really call in your relationships, and that's when you really call in your systems, because everybody was really for the last 2 years. So, and that's a tribute to you, and it's a tribute to the relationships you built over the career of not only being a Choice, but just in the industry. It's the same thing. The reason why Hunter Conference is doing so well is because it's, I always say it's not what you say, it's how you make me feel. And, it all comes down to it, whether you're building a brand or whether you're building, a building or a team. It all comes down to, like we said in the beginning, those few words, the emotions that you feel, especially when people are feeling their most vulnerable. I mean, I would imagine if I asked both of you, give me an incident where you spoke to an owner, and for the first time you've known this person, they look scared.
Right.
I bet you we all have 10 stories, right? I remember one individual. I was somewhere. I don't remember where we were, and they had to give. It was a young person that was in the family business, and we were talking. And now this is going to sound kind of a little pompous, but he had to give back his BMW, and he had to give back his American Express card. Now, he grew up with everything being successful,
right,
and everything working, and his family worked hard enough for him to have a really good American Express card and to have a BMW. No harm, no foul. He worked 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. But the sheer sometimes this doesn't go well. Oh, sometimes I got to give up stuff. I got to lower my lifestyle. Oh, which was bad and good. Bad because you don't want anybody to be in pain, and good because maybe we can all relate to our housekeepers and our front desk people who are living paycheck to paycheck. Anyway, I don't know how we went off on a tangent, but there you go.
No, I think that's a good point, Anthony. I mean, what people sort of forget is that in the run-up to the pandemic, we had about 12 years of positive RevPAR growth every single year. Now, it was starting to tail off a little bit, starting to flatten, going into 2020. But I think we all kind of got lulled into this, hey, it's always going to keep going up. It's always going to be positive. And like you said, sometimes getting knocked on your butt and figuring out how to get back up is good for you, in your career and, in your business, and helps you put contingency plans in place going forward. And I think every one of our owners now has that, at least some sort of playbook to work themselves through a major correction.
Right.
Well, and I think it allowed us to really focus, like shave off the fat, and really allowed us to focus on what matters most for guests and what matters most for owners.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if it wasn't the big, fresh flowers in the lobby, maybe that didn't matter as much because of a commitment to clean.
Yeah.
And so maybe they were looking for something different. And so it really allowed, like I said, all of us to take a look at the way that we do business, and like our, housekeeping on demand.
Right.
Housekeeping on demand was something that we were moving towards with business travel before the pandemic
definitely
hit,
were.
because people, if you walk down the halls, you could see how many people had hung their Do Not Disturb sign out.
Yep.
And so with having Do Not Disturb signs, that was something we were already investigating, and had actually been running pilots in November of 2019 before the pandemic hit in 2020, which allowed us to move very quickly.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. I've been saying this for years when I'm on the road doing business. I don't need or want people coming in every single day. I've got enough towels. I don't need new linens, for example, every single day. I'm not that luxurious at home. I don't need to be that luxurious on the road. So Janis, what are some of the other trends that you saw accelerate over this time that's better informed you as to where brands like Cambria and Ascend are going to be headed to in the future from a consumer perspective. And then we'll get Mark's point of view from the development side.
Okay. One of the biggest trends, Glenn, that we see, of course, is the rise of the digital nomad and the digital remote worker. And if you just think about the numbers in their purest form, right now there's about 19 million of those people. The number is expected to grow to 41 million over the next 5 years. And so when you think about what the digital nomad is really looking for, they've got to have space in the room that provides for multiple flexibility. I don't want to sit at a desk. I may want to work in my bed. I may want to work on a sofa. I may need to move things around. We've even had to look at things like trash removal in the room because so many people are using DoorDash and Grubhub, which means lots of plastic and styrofoam coming into the hotel and into the guest room. And so with people using this as their home and having longer length of stays, how do we make sure that we're taking care of them? Also, one of the things that we've done is in our marketplaces, we found out that people really like to be able to go and grab an adult beverage from the marketplace, whether it's a local craft cocktail or a craft beer or a split of wine. We have a Cambria Wines program in partnership with Cambria Wines. And for them to be able to grab that and then take it to the rooftop or take it outdoors to the fire pit or back to their room, and they don't want to drink it out of a recycled coffee cup. So how do you make sure that glassware is available for them as well? So it still feels slightly luxurious and a little bit really special. So we're tracking the macro trends. We're staying very close to what is being said on social and digital review sites, scanning that on a daily basis, and really allowing that to help to inform the way that we're thinking about our guest experience design over the longer period of time.
You know, it's interesting. If I can ask Glenn, can I say something? It's interesting because in our industry, we don't move very quickly, right? And when we move, the time we move, the decision has already been made a long time ago. And the time we implement it, it seems almost out of date, right? So what you're saying is you've been ahead of the curve, and not only been ahead of the curve, you're analyzing things like, you know, liquor in the minibar, right? I love going in. I don't really drink in my room, but I've been an ultra light fan recently. And so when I go in and I see an ultra Michelob Light, I get very excited and what does it do? It does a couple things, right? One, I don't have to deal with an employee. I don't have to deal with an employee, and an employee doesn't have to deal with me. And I don't mean that in a bad way. They can do other things. It's all right there, and it just seems that the things that we were thought of air quotes low rent, like not a level of a certain style of hotel, is now commonplace. Texting is the new 5 diamond standard, right? It's grab and go right next to the front desk. It's like a 5 diamond standard. It's like, to me, those are the things that we should have been doing a long time ago. But because we move at glacier speed and we don't want to upset our guests, could you ever imagine having housekeeping on demand when you want it? Or, not maybe taking out the garbage every single day? We wouldn't have done that. But that's how people work and live now. And it's okay. But again, it seems like you guys were visionaries. Most hotel companies weren't doing that. And I don't know if your company did this, and if it did, I apologize. But like taking out the desk, like a lot of companies thought taking out the desk was the right move.
Yeah, no, that was not happening there.
Right.
No, I mean, I think a credit to our CEO, Pat Pacious, and when COVID hit and all these adjustments need to be made as public companies, right? You have to be prudent with the dollars you're spending and the changes that you make. So there's these work streams and these processes and committees. He said, look, if it works, it's going to save our franchisees money. It's not going to affect the guest experience to a level that's to a negative. Let's implement it, right? And that's what we did. And in a way, it was great to kind of hit the fast forward button. And I think it paid off for us.
But how do you manage where the level of the standard is not where it was pre-pandemic in all the evaluations across the brands? Let's just be honest with each other.
Yeah, right.
So how do you build that in? So, okay, we want a 9.8 across the board side, and now we know it's, say, a 9.4. Like, is that built in, or we're still chopping at the bit to say, listen, I don't care about all the other things that we're doing. You still got to stay at 9.8. How do you guys manage that?
Well, it's a great question. And, like you said, the industry as a whole actually saw a decline in terms of overall guest satisfaction during the pandemic. We, like I shared earlier, our Cambria brand maintains the strongest or the highest social digital rating is evaluated by Medallia out there as it scrapes sites and sees, what star rating and what people are saying about the brand. So we're really pleased with that. I think one of the big things, Anthony, too, that we have identified is with the rise of leisure travel and the decline of business travel during the pandemic, that's also part of what drove the decline in LTR. Because as a business traveler, if you're in and out and you're using somebody else's credit card, you're using your corporate credit card, maybe your expectation is just slightly different than if all of a sudden now I'm paying for it out of my own pocketbook and it's my own credit card that I'm using. And so we stay on top of that all the time. What we have seen is that this is really interesting is food and beverage. People may not want to eat breakfast in the restaurant,
Right.
but they want that option. They want to know that food and beverage is available and that they're going to be able to get something that's going to be healthy and fresh without having to leave the hotel.
So
that's
is breakfast the new indoor pool? Like, I want it, but I'm
Yeah.
never going to use it.
Well, we're trying, like I said, we're finding different ways to solve for that. Again, going back to our marketplace, it doesn't have to be a hot, necessarily full menu, hot cooked breakfast, but people do want to know at a certain price point that if I want a cocktail, I can go to the bar and get a cocktail, or if I want breakfast, I'm going to be able to find a hot, healthy, breakfast option in the hotel as well.
And it comes down to if I want my room clean, I want my room clean.
Exactly.
Like I don't want to hear I don't have a housekeeper. I don't want to hear where we're short on towels and we don't have anybody to bring you towels. If I want towels, give them to me. If I want my room clean, clean my room. If I want my garbage taken out, take it out. I'm probably not going to bother you a lot, but when I do, and that's kind of what we've been talking about for a long time, is when we do react as a guest, you better react at a higher level than you did before the pandemic, because we're able to accept all the changes, but what we can't accept is delay. And we all know that people's patience are a lot less than they were 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, we actually have one of our hoteliers who does a great job. He actually put a sign up behind the front desk in his hotels. He has multi-units that says, "Be kind." And it was just to remind the guests that's coming in as well, is that the teams working the desk are also, and everybody in the hotel, there's also a lot of, they're under a lot of pressure to, deliver that guest experience and meet their needs. And so just something that simple really, kind of puts a smile on people's face and changes their whole attitude.
Well, how complicated is it then? Because what we're really talking about is changing things that are just there and expected to them requesting it and asking for it. It seems simple on one end, but it really kind of changes the dynamics of the entire relationships you have with the customer at the property level. So what are some of your thoughts around that, Mark?
Yeah, I think the texting is a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, it wasn't that long ago, and I know you've all had this experience where you go to the front desk, you check in, and we're all hardcore road warriors. And, to her credit, the overtrained front desk person is bringing you through this whole script that she was told to say and bring you through it. And you're sitting there like, just let me go to my room, please.
Yeah.
And you finally go up to your room. You barely put your bag down. The phone and ring, and like, "Hello, Mr. Shalala. How's everything in your room?" You're like, I don't know. I just literally put my bag down. Right. So there was a lot of time and energy and effort put into that experience. And I don't think the guests were enjoying that. So I think
when the phone would ring, I would just get scared.
Right. It was just.
And what's the first thing we do typically when we go to our room? We use the restroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right.
Right.
So we're in the restroom and the phone's ringing. You son of a bitch. And then you think, is somebody at home? Where's my phone? My cell phone? Am I late? And then like all of a sudden you went from this experience to try to help me to elevate my stress level.
All right. I think a small portion of travelers appreciated that high touch. Most people thought it was an inconvenience. So we've kind of fast forwarded through all that. And now with the technology, you can, like Anthony was saying, you can be as involved or as communicated as much as you want with the hotel and use it as an amenity or not, or just.
And I really think that what that does more than anything, it meets us where we are, right? I love texting, and everybody knows I love texting because I am not on my email. I don't like talking on the phone. I don't listen to my voicemails. But where am I? This is how far my phone was from me just now. This is where I am. So meet me where I am. I'm not on my text. So as soon as this is over, I'm going to be looking at my text and you're going to get a response. So finally, hotels are doing a much better job. And it's really interesting. It's really accelerated in the last 2 years, 10 years ahead.
I was just going to say it's like slow, and then suddenly everything seems to have changed, even though some of these things were in there. Adele says her 87-year-old mother loves to text. Yeah, I'm texting with my mom. She's around 80 now. It's much easier, and it really simplifies the type of communications. But Mark, with all these changes happening to how guests want to inhabit hotels, what are developers thinking about in terms of some of the things that they're pushing forward versus things that might be able to become a relic of the past?
Right. So we already had some work streams going about how we were going to make our prototype a little bit more efficient and where we thought the meaningful growth was going to be even before the pandemic hit. And so our initial strategy was to try to get Cambria into the top 50 RevPAR markets across the country and high barrier, high RevPAR locations, right? Because that gives your brand visibility and it drives performance for the brand because of the RevPAR that's available in those markets.
Right.
We did that pretty successfully. We're in 36 of the top 50, either open or under construction, 8 of the top 10 RevPAR markets.
Wow.
When COVID hit, we said, okay, we think the meaningful growth is going to be in secondary and leisure markets. The prototype that we were building in these urban locations, supported by much higher RevPAR, probably would not have worked financially in the secondary leisure market. So we came out with a new prototype option. We launched at the lodging conference only 6 months ago. That took about 25,000 square feet out of the building. It went from 127 keys down to 107 keys. We're still providing developers everything that they love about Cambria, as well as what the guests love. The flexibility to design to the market, really make it a local experience for the guest, and providing flexibility in doing that. But it is a little bit more of a prescriptive prototype, custom FF&E packages, all things that are built in that's going to save the developer money. In addition to that, implementing a much lower operating cost to operate the hotel, which is key. With the labor issues, everyone would raise their hand for fewer full-time employees. We've reduced those by 25%. We're able to reduce 2 managers. And a lot of it had to do with just shrinking the common area space and the space in which we operate our food and beverage. Talking about everything we're just mentioning, the guest preferences are evolving. And there's a different expectation of what the guest is expecting going into these secondary leisure markets than maybe when they go into an urban market. And so we're adjusting that. Smaller F&B operation, but way more efficient, more options in the marketplace, a little more highly amenitized. So it's right there for them to grab those adult beverages or whatever they need. And we think we've created the product that developers want to build and that guests are going to want to stay in post-pandemic.
Yeah. And being able to walk into your hotel, have parking convenient, get your key within 2 minutes, get your drink, get your sandwich, close the door, put your do not disturb sign on, decompress, eat your sandwich and drink your beer when you unpack and take a shower and you watch your ESPN. That to me is 5-star service and I'm at my happiest. That's it. Done.
Yeah, you just described the perfect evening. So, Mark, I got to ask you then, in today's day and age, how is that new construction development pipeline going for Choice Hotels? Now, in aggregate in hospitality, according to Lodging Econometrics, those numbers are down. No surprise there. But how are you seeing your development pipeline for Cambria specifically?
It's really strong. I mean, we were fortunate. We did a lot of hard work pre-pandemic and built a very robust pipeline. Right. And a lot of those projects were at the 1-yard line when the pandemic hit. So now those are all coming online. We grew the Cambria portfolio by 20% last year. But Janis said 2021 was an exceptional year. That's one of the stats that goes into backing that statement. Not many brands grew by 20%.
Right.
Opening 7 projects. We broke ground on 6 projects, 4 in the fourth quarter alone, which is a really good sign that our developers are able to secure debt and put their projects together at a basis that they're able to get their projects financed and hopefully will be profitable for them long term. Since we launched the new prototype, it's gotten fantastic traction. It's kind of doing everything that we'd hoped it would. We've executed, by the end of this month, we'll have 10 projects executed under the new prototype, which is really, really exciting.
Yeah. How many open hotels do you have right now, guys, for Cambria?
So right now we're at 58 open hotels. Mm-hmm. We've got 17 hotels under active construction. We will open, supply chain issues, things slower. We'll probably open 10 to 12 hotels this year. looking to break ground on another 7 to 8 hotels.
Right. I'm curious. I want to talk about Ascend for a minute or two. What's the state of that, and how are things changing now after 2 years of tumultuous change in our business? Are we still moving at the same track but accelerated as before, or are things demonstrably different, guys?
Yeah, from the development side, Ascend had a fantastic year in 2021. I mean, Ascend is primarily a conversion brand. We do new construction, but we saw a lot of, because of the intense demand on leisure markets, we saw a lot of people looking to reposition their hotel to the upscale segment with some flexibility under a soft brand in these leisure markets. Because if you go to a leisure market, you're taking your family there, you're looking for experience, you're looking to relax a little bit. You don't necessarily want to be in a branded box, right? You want to have an experience. And so we had a lot of hotel investors looking for branded boxes, actually, that, you know, were unencumbered by the flag and could switch it to a soft brand, because they were seeing the soft brand kind of take the rate cap off that some of the brands keep on the asset, and be able to charge a premium to the guest.
Right, Janis?
The thing I would add about Ascend is, with soft brands and soft brand collections, a lot of people think of like younger millennials. The average age of our customer is actually a little bit older, and we know that our brand is going to continue to do extremely well, the Ascend, because baby boomers are retiring 3 times at a rate 3 times faster than they did pre-pandemic. They've got, disposable income, they've got the time, they want to be out on the road. And what our brand also does, what the Ascend collection also does, is the insight that we have about our particular target guest is that they're people that, they're sure of who they are. They want to continue to learn. They're lifetime learners. They're curious about things, and they're doing that for themselves versus taking the Instagram moment. For them, it's much more about immersing themselves into the culture, getting out and discovering nature and all of the things at the destination. So there's been a lot of, soft brands that have kind of thrown their hat into the ring recently. But we know that where we're focused, where our target is, where we see the growth opportunity, that we're in the right space with the right customer, and we know that we've got, a great trajectory for our owners.
A couple of things we're seeing in the unemployment numbers, that 55 plus group is absolutely the group that's leaving the workforce. And I don't think, generally speaking, people are understanding that's really where the shift in employment is happening. We're so caught up with everyone reevaluating their lives. And then I think it's interesting what you were saying there about people wanting to get back outside, because I think we're all starting to feel screen fatigue in a real meaningful way. And we want to connect with the outside world. At least Gen Xers and above. My Gen Z kids are still completely addicted to these screens all of the time. But Anthony, what do you think?
Well, that leads me to a question that's a little off topic, but kind of what you just said about screens. I'm this person that's been yelling from the rooftops that it's not a generational shift. It is a human shift, right? We all want, Janis, if you're able to work from home a couple more days a month than you were before, you feel better. It's just, we all, it's a human shift, right? However, I'm going to ask this question because something just happened to me this morning that was, I talked about it in the green room. So you heard what I said, and I don't want to mention it here for just, I don't want to embarrass anyone, but something happened with someone that had a great opportunity, and they're hard workers, but I don't know if it was a generational thing of they don't understand what we understand, that the minimum is the minimum, meaning showing up on time, being respectful, dressing well, bringing the boss coffee, whatever it is. Like the minimum is literally, to them, maybe that's the standard. That's just getting up and brushing your teeth, right? To us. Do you see, even the people that you're hiring that may be a little bit in the younger generation, do you see, once you kind of hire them, that they do have the work ethic and they do have that level of standard that we understand? Or you're like, you have to give them a little bit more coaching than you would have 10 years ago?
I think we definitely see it. And I think so much of that is us giving the right responsibility and the right inspiration for people to be able to feel like they're really contributing. I think if you bring people in and you've got your, like you said, there's basics, right? Come to work on time, be a person of your word. If you say you're going to do something, make sure you do it and do it is to the best of your ability. But I think with today's generation, it really is more about the ability to be able to contribute and make a positive difference. It's more about a purpose-driven life.
Right.
And we have a responsibility to make sure that regardless of what position, if you're the most junior person, that you have a voice and a seat at the table, that we want to hear what you have to say, that you bring something through who you are and your authentic self. And that, I think, is a change. And I do think it makes us all better as a result of that by having, understanding. I know for me, like I was at South by Southwest last week.
Ooh, fun.
I go to Southie because that's why, I need to know what's happening the next 10 years. I need to know what emotional scripting is in gaming and digital content and how that works and all.
Wow.
And unless I'm doing those kind of things and, learning from our younger generation, we're not going to be able to have brands that are sustainability long-term and that are really going to matter and provide purpose and relevance for guests.
Yeah, and I love what you said because you didn't put it in a negative. You're like, those are challenges, but the way you kind of you achieve and you overcome that challenge is meeting them where they are. Is like they may think differently than we did when we were growing up in the industry because we didn't want to see the table because we weren't allowed to see the table until we killed ourselves for 20 years, right? And then all of a sudden we got to see it at the table. So you're putting a very positive spin. It's like, that's okay. Because wouldn't it have been great, Mark and Janis, that when we first started our career, somebody, and actually it did happen to me early on, Arlene, my first general manager, actually did give me a seat at the table. But that was short-lived because when I left, I thought that was the way it was going to be. And for 20 years, everybody's like, just be you and shut up. And so I love the way, and that's why you've had such a long and great career, is because the way you said that was just so inspiring that is actually going to help me going forward. Now, the incident I talk about, that person had all that. That was just maybe just not a good fit. But that's very interesting the way you say that. Mark, how do you feel?
I also think, look, being part of a company that has a tremendous culture, Choice Hotels is 80-year-old company that's had this phenomenal culture, and it's really a performance-based business model. And we make that very clear when people come in, no matter what division you're working in, we're expecting you to produce, and we're going to give you all the training and all the support and all the mentorship. And hopefully you kind of take the reins and take the training wheels off and get out there and start doing it. And we always talk about how they're trending, right? And when we're evaluating talent, are they trending? Are they taking those reins and running with it? But every employee comes into our organization, they quickly see how fast the treadmill is moving and how fast the leaders are running on that treadmill. And if they're not willing to jump on that, they're going to feel out of place relatively quickly.
But how do you put a timeout on that treadmill and say this person is worth? They're not getting it. They don't work. They come from a different, maybe a different town where people just don't move that fast. How many times have me and Glenn been accused when we're, in a different town? They're like, "Oh, you're so New Yorkers." No, we're just saying good morning. What are you talking about?
But we say it so directly, it freaks people out.
It's like, so how do you, because that's where I think people are challenged. It's like the person doesn't get on the treadmill right away because it is going too fast for them, but they're capable and they want to be there. How do you then say, listen, not everybody's like me. Not everybody's going to run 100 miles an hour. What do you do to kind of, make sure you stop the treadmill or just tell them to take a step back for a second and let's like kind of what is overwhelming you? Like, how do you do that? What's your style?
Yeah, I mean, so we do quarterly reviews, right? It's a time to sit down with our employees and discuss openly and straightforward, how they're performing, are they hitting certain objectives, what their concerns, what their challenges are, and then trying to spend some time investing in and helping them get over whatever hurdle they're struggling with. If it's an individual who's got talent, who's got that drive, who's got some of those intangibles you just can't coach, we'll spend a little more time with them, getting them through that kind of ramp up learning curve. Because look, it's expensive to hire and train and bring people on, right? So you want to invest in these people long term. Every employee is a long term investment for us, and we take that approach. After you've done all that, and after you've invested that much time, at some point, it becomes easier for any manager to it's a pain to let someone go and hire them. But at some point, if they're just not getting it, it becomes an easier decision to let that person go and replace them.
Well, Mark, you don't let them go. You just promote them to customer.
Right. It's a very nice way to say
it. So, Janis, what did you want to say about that?
I just wanted to, I have the pleasure of working with Mark, and I see how he manages high performance franchise sales team, which is, like he said, it's all about, did you make your number and all of that. But Mark grew up, playing football and played at, high levels in college and all. And he's a great storyteller. And he recognizes that everybody is playing a different position. And I know sometimes we have conversations and he'll tell me something like, yeah, it feels like we're out there in the boat and you've got your little bucket and I've got my bucket and we're bailing as fast as we can, but the water keeps coming in. But he just really knows how to relate to his team and recognizes that everybody is different and maybe the story that he needs to share is going to mean something different to every individual, and he finds a way to motivate them. So I think that Mark is, just hats off to you. I think he's a great leader in that respect.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
And go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you can finish on that thought. I have something else to add afterwards on a new.
Every brand and every company goes through challenges. You guys have been around for a long time, and you've had your bumps in the road over the last 30 years. Say, how did the ship get? How did you right the ship? Like, what was the shift? Because there was a shift at some point at Choice, and it kind of got back on a really good fast track, right? What was the change?
I think from my perspective on the development side with the Upscale Brands, and we were doing something pretty unprecedented. We were this phenomenal 80-year-old company who sort of dominated the mid-scale segment. If you look at our brands from sort of like comfort suites down, we're really well segmented and take up a lot of share as far as how we perform against our competitors. All our white space was in the upscale segment. So that's why we launched into it and are making serious investments into that, because that's one of the primary growth modes for Choice. I think what's great is Choice Hotels has been a phenomenal company. Every decision they make isn't a quarter to quarter or year to year. It's a 10-year investment long term. And because of the strength of the balance sheet and sort of how we're organized, we're able to make those longer term investments and just stick with it. Because at some point, no matter whether you're trying to lose weight or trying to become a better golfer, whatever goal you're setting, something's going to come and hit you and get you really discouraged. And a lot of people fall off and give up. But having that support and the executive team saying, look, just keep going. We're on the right path. Adjust, course correct as you need to. That long-term support has been, I think, what's driven Choice kind of to the next level over the last, 6 to 10 years.
I think part of it too is we defined that we didn't want to sit at the kids' table any longer, that we really wanted to be the big C.
Right.
And what I mean by that is,
Right.
there was the big red M up the street from us and the big blue, was not too far away from us.
That company. When are you going to come to the party?
And we were like
Right.
at the kids' table in some ways, because people thought of us as being an economy and mid-scale, but units, key count, when you looked at our performance, like we were the first company in 2021 to get back to 2019 results. And we have the highest valuation of anybody in the industry. So, those are,
wow.
but it's because, like I said, we made the decision. We're not going to compromise, and we want to have a seat at the adult table. We want to be seen as being a big player, and we've got a great leader in Pat, as CEO. We've got a great executive leadership, and we've got a wonderful board that has supported, the decisions that have been made about the type of investments we've been making over the last years as well.
Yeah, Anthony.
So Janis, my question is for you. This is a male-dominated sport, right? And you've grown your career very well. What is your advice for a young female executive? I'm not saying a young front desk clerk that wants to be a supervisor, wants to be a manager, but someone that's kind of got to that level of GM or maybe vice president that's having challenges. Maybe she's in a meeting and all the guys are talking and she's waiting and she does, she's feeling uncomfortable. I don't know what that feels like because I'm not a woman, but I have 3 girls and I see it with my girls. Sometimes they'll apologize when they're not supposed to. And I'm sorry. And I don't mean like, what advice do you have for that young lady coming up who's an executive and just about to make that next big step?
Well, one of the first things is I mentioned the board earlier. I think it's important you have your own personal board of directors, and your daughters are never too young to start with that. So they need to find people in the industry that they can trust, that they get, or whatever industry. For me, I have, people that from government to the hotel business, And they're primarily male because there weren't many females, when I was coming along myself. And so I think having a personal board of directors so that you have advocates, and when those opportunities come up, you have somebody that's at the table that says, oh, what about Anthony's daughter? I think she'd be great for that role. Or I know her. I just had a great conversation about this. I think she'd be great for that role. The other thing that you kind of hit upon, which is really important, is be bold. They have to find their voice. And you're so right. I think about myself even. I was always apologizing. I was always waiting. If you did speak up, normally you got talked over, or quite often that happened where you got talked over and then somebody else mentioned it 3 or 4 minutes later and it was the best idea. But you have to keep plugging. You know what I mean? You have to continue to be bold, and you have to find your moments. And something else that helps with that is before you go into those meetings, if you should with somebody and say, hey, I've been thinking about this and I'd really like to present this. Can you support me or back me up on that? And having somebody at the table, each one find one, and having somebody at the table really can help. But don't quit, don't give up is the main thing. And we are making, great progress. And I've had, like I said, I've had the great career that I've had because I've had primarily male supporters that have, invited me to the table and given me a chance as well.
Interesting. In that same kind of vein, taking it to the next level, you had mentioned earlier that people that spend money are becoming more interested in the companies themselves. What's their philosophy? What's their thoughts? So, how are you approaching corporate responsibility to be appealing not just to employees but also for folks that want to spend money in the hotels that are under Choice Brands?
Do you want to start, or do you want?
You can take that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to. Sure. Okay. Well, for example, we really believe in DE&B, diversity, equity, and belonging. A lot of people hear DE&I, diversity, equality, and inclusion. Right. But we use B. And the reason that we use B, it goes back to some of the things we've been talking about, which is you can be included and not feel like you belong. And so it's not enough to just be a number or a check and say, okay,
Right.
We've made our diversity quota, or we've made our diversity goals. But do I feel comfortable? Am I respected where I'm at? Does my voice matter? Do I have the opportunity to contribute? So Choice is highly focused on that, and that's why we use DE&B instead of DE&I. The other thing is we are really focused as well on sustainability. We've introduced a new platform that allows our hotels to be able to track what their carbon footprint is. But more important than that, we're looking at things like 47% of our Cambrias already have EV charging stations. So the Calabasas, California hotel that I just referenced, they've got 6. It's California and it's a hotel that just opened, but they know that that's who our customer is, and that's how they're coming to the hotel. And we want to be first at that. We're also testing things like solar panels, to reduce, the drain on utilities and electricity. We have things, we're using VOC paints, we're using EOS carpets. We are even doing things like surface parking, making sure that the materials that we use are permeable so that they don't disrupt the water table, because we need to protect our resources and make sure that we're going to have resources for a long time and into the future. So it is about ESG for us. It is about the environment. It is about social, and it is about governments, with huge focus on D&B. And one other thing I'll say on that too, if I may,
Of course.
we actually launched a program with HBCUs, Historic Black Colleges and Universities, where we have a
Cool.
management accelerator program.
Right.
And so our first graduates that went into the program last summer, after they graduated, they've just received their first permanent placements. And so what it's done is it's allowed them, like you were talking about, Anthony, God knows it used to take us, 20 years maybe to get to that position. What we're saying is we're going to make the investment. We're going to give you the training that you need. And after 6 months, you're going to be in a managerial role. And so we've confirmed that, and now we're into year 2 of recruiting for that, and the program's going extremely well.
Excellent. And it makes me think of John Lancaster as well, who is trying to help get new communities of people into hotel ownership. Mark, you got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's just a great thing what we're doing, creating a bridge. I know how I got into the business. Someone sitting around complaining about the current job I had way back in 1997, not to date myself.
Ouch.
A good friend of mine said, hey, my father's friends with this guy who runs Super 8 franchising, and there's these guys that go out and sell hotel franchises. and it's competitive and you can make a lot of money. And I don't know what he said, but that got in my head, and it was something I wanted to do, right? So that's how, and then he made the introduction. He created that bridge, gave me the phone number to the individual, and I called them and called them until basically found my way into the industry. And unfortunately, some of these minorities and minority groups and females and other sort of diverse groups don't get that bridge as often as other people might. And I just think it's great that Choice is creating that bridge, because look, people are people, talent is talent. I don't care what color you are. If you're getting the job done and hitting it hard, we want you on our team.
Yeah, it's crazy, Anthony, right? The whole notion of discounting groups of people who could make your company better, that could make you more money. It just doesn't make
sense. And Glenn, but I don't think it's discounting any group. I really don't. I don't think that's the thing. You
don't think the traditional white male from back in the day just
it's who you hang out with, right? I was in the military, so I hang out with everybody. Yeah. I'm from Brooklyn, so I hung out with everybody.
Yeah.
So I have a friend that's from Oklahoma or Kentucky. They didn't maybe hang out. One of my friends didn't see a Jewish person until they went to college. Right. Actually, no, until they went to work in New York City. No harm, no foul. They just weren't.
You couldn't stop seeing them. They're everywhere.
So this to me is all of our obligations, and I said it. Before I got Hotel Impossible, that if God's good enough to give me a show that I can express how wonderful this business is, I am always I'm always going to help people. That's our job. It's Mark's job. It's your job. It's Janis's job. It is not, well, it's nice if you do that. You're a nice person. No, just like it's breathing, it is your job to ensure that you're finding people from every community and bringing them into our industry, because in 10 years, we're going to be in trouble if we don't. Just this week, I was saying yesterday, and even today, like, I can't tell you how many people I talk to, just with kids who just reach out to me, or classes or whatever. I'll do it all day. I'll do it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is an obligation. We all had good careers. We've built nice families. We've built a nice life for ourselves. We've done it because this industry allowed us to do it. And yes, I can make a phone call and make things happen for people around me. All of us can. Okay. It's knowing, I always said, I don't care about money and power. I care about access. That I can call Janis or Mark and say, hey, can you look at this kid that I really like from UNLV? He seems like a good kid. Can you just give him a conversation? That to me is worth any money in the world, that I have access to people that can change other people's lives. And that is an obligation. It is not a nice to have.
Absolutely agree with everything you're saying, Anthony. And I think once you bring that person into your organization, it's about taking care of them as well. Going back to what Janis said about how we treat people at Choice Hotels, the biggest mantra that's just that comes at us from the executive team is wanted, welcome, and respected. We can't control what kind of goes on outside our four walls in Rockville, Maryland, where our corporate headquarters are. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening out there, but we can control to some extent what's happening inside our four walls.
Right.
And we're going to control that universe and make sure everyone feels wanted, welcome, respected, and heard and recognized for their accomplishments.
With that said, once you identify somebody and you get them in the plan, are you seeing that in today's day and age that people either complain more or tap out easier, or just the same as any year you've been in the industry?
Look, I'll date myself by saying, these millennials.
You've already dated yourself. You're old. We got it.
I'll date myself again. You want to say, these millennials, they're so entitled. They want everything. And look, being from my generation, you do see a little bit of that, but the hard work is still there. The ambition is still there. The millennials have had a pretty tough run since they came out of school, right?
Sure.
Pandemics and, so.
Thank you for saying that.
Instead of just judging them on how they might be perceived, that there's some real data behind that of why they might be. I mean, they've had to play catch up ever since they came out of college. When I came out of college, the .com boom was happening. You could get a new job and double your salary for 3-4 years in a row. So I had a totally different experience than what some of these kids are.
I am really glad, not to interrupt you, I am so happy you say that, and we all need to be saying that to people of our generation, that they had it tough, man. I have 3 kids. Glenn as teenagers, I have 3 kids that are 22 and 22, and my baby was 19. They were right in the middle of it. Who missed their high school graduation? Who missed their college graduation? My daughter got on the volleyball team for college, got her senior prom date, and was about to go to the prom. And in 24 hours, the prom went away, her senior date went away, and her volleyball season for the first year freshman in Manhattanville went away. Okay, my other daughter, who worked 3.5 years hard to graduate early, her graduation went away. My other daughter's graduation went away. So I'm so happy you said that these kids that are 19, 20, 21, 22 years old have been through hell. And
step back. I think instead of looking at it as entitlement, look at it as more of their sense of urgency. Then that's a good thing, right? They feel they've fallen behind and they want to jump ahead faster.
Yeah. Also, the millennials and what Anthony's really talking about are more like Gen Z, but they have a lot of similar features. Is that millennials, we give them a lot of guff for actually wanting to have a life and not the system that we did, where you had to give 20 years to a company. You know?
Yeah, when people have, like, when I got diamond status, I was happy, but I was also embarrassed.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Totally. But I'm always happy to talk about diamond status when I'm at a cocktail party with these types of people. All right, we got to wrap up. So, how about some final thoughts from both of you, Mark, and then Janis? Anything that you want to add?
Sure. Look, we're just really excited about the position we're in as an organization. Janis hit on a little bit earlier. Really, really strong balance sheet has allowed us to make some strategic investments through this pandemic that's really accelerating us out of it. About halfway through last year, we were trending from a RevPAR index higher than 2019. We're the only company that finished above 2019 levels. We think that trend's going to continue. January numbers were at 12% higher from January RevPAR than 2019. So clearly we're coming out of, we're putting the pandemic behind us from a performance perspective, which is just fantastic because it means our owners are now back on their feet and getting to ring the cash register a little bit more than they have in the last couple of years.
Yeah, cool. Janis?
Well, first of all, Glenn and Anthony, I want to thank you all. It's always great to spend a little bit of time with you, and I do appreciate so much the platform that you provide for the industry as a whole.
Thank you.
For us to talk about, difficult issues, opportunities, and really where we're headed as an industry. And as Mark said, we're just super excited. We're firing on all cylinders. We didn't even talk about extended stay. We've got, Suburban Studios has just launched. We've got Woodspring. We've got Everhome, which is our new extended stay brand. We're really focused on our revenue intense brands, and we're seeing, strong growth. And we're not about to put our foot on the brake at all. And we're just going to, continue. Mark shared with you some of the numbers we see for Upscale this year in terms of openings. And so our deals are getting funded, our projects are getting funded, and they are moving ahead, and ground breaks are happening. And so we're got 17 hotels under construction right now, active construction, and we're looking forward to opening those up and, just seeing the brand continue to grow. And the last thing I want to say is that this is, I believe, still the greatest industry in the world.
Yeah.
In terms of, opportunity, in terms of growth, and happy to be a part of it. And Anthony, to your point, we have a responsibility to not only attract, but to help them grow and also retain talent for the future. So appreciate all that you guys are doing in that area as well.
Anthony?
Real quick thing, in 10 seconds or less, what you guys are so intense, you guys work so hard. What's your hobby? Mark, what's your hobby?
My hobby is, right now, I've caught the golf bug. I've always kind of.
I had a feeling when you mentioned golf.
I've always kind of played. My father was a scratch golfer and pushed. That was the only sport he pushed me in. So of course I hated it. But now later in life, I'm starting to enjoy it and trying to get as good as I can when I can.
So Janis, what do you do?
We talked about this. I don't know if you remember or not, but we have a Black Angus seed stock ranch. And as a matter of fact, my husband and my daughter, who lives in Boston, she flew down. They actually are doing AI today, artificial insemination. We play in genetics. We want the best cows, high marbling, low fat, the best cows. And so people buy our seed stock to improve and enhance their herds that are then sold, commercially. So
that's awesome.
That's a new.
That's not a hobby. That's a business.
Yeah.
What's your hobby?
Mucking the barn, fixing fences, putting in a culvert at the creek, loading rock, you name it.
So you were born in Brooklyn too, huh?
Too funny. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you both. If you just hang out for a second, that'd be awesome. You guys rock. All right, Anthony, let's get out of here. What a great show. Aren't they awesome?
They're
Still
amazingly
hear you, so be
awesome.
careful what you say.
What's that?
They can still hear you. So be
They're
careful.
amazingly awesome.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching our show today. If you want to get the audio version, we know so many of you love doing that. Find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, wherever you get your shows. We've got an audio version there. And of course, reach out to us. He's at Anthony Hotels. I'm at Traveling Glenn. Ready to get out of here, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, we'll see you all tomorrow. We're going to be featuring another great hotel company here at the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference, but we'll start at 12:30 tomorrow, 12:30, because I'm doing a panel and we can't start at 12. Thanks so much for being here. And remember, everyone, you've got one life, so blaze on and
Be kind to yourself.
see you later.
When we